Germany who builds crazy bikes, really strange things, and that's one of the examples there. Another bike is a bike where you steer, and you have to steer into the other direction to actually steer to the right direction. First of all, thanks a lot for having me here at this conference. I really enjoyed the previous talks, and I'm going to talk about Bikeshed today. My name is Nikolai Onken on Twitter, and I co-founded the company Uxibu. There we do only JavaScript 100%. We started 4 years ago, did a whole bunch of consulting for a long time, and then last year we switched to product development, which was a great thing for us with 10 people. We're all distributed. I live in Amsterdam. We have 6 guys in Germany, in the UK, and in the States, all working at home. So why Bikeshed? I will go into details of Bikeshed in a little bit, but I think already today at the previous talks we saw, it really seems to be more clear and clear that JavaScript is turning much more creative than it used to be. You know, we used to build apps, UI interfaces, and so on and so further, and now we're starting to build games, animations, and really, you know, make it a much more creative craft, which I think is really, really nice. And that brought us to working on Bikeshed. Before I'm going to show really the nuts and bolts of Bikeshed, I'm just going to tell a little bit about how we got there. Who of you has heard of Toby Taylor's Gordon Flash runtime? All right. So I'm just going to explain really shortly. I just remember myself in, I think, 96, 97, being amazed by on mouse over and really, you know, liking to start hacking for the web and starting to change colors and stuff like that. And then a whole couple of years later, Tobias Schneider wrote a Flash runtime written in JavaScript, 100%. So what he did basically, he would read the Swift file, decompile it on the fly, and execute the code in real time in the browser. So you could just insert a script tag, tell the script to load a certain SWF file, and then you actually can execute Flash files in the browser on the iPhone, for example. So he started Flash Gordon. And then last year at the JSConf, well, actually before that, we at Uxibu continued the work on Gordon beginning last year and pushed the support until Flash 8 and ActionScript 2. So you actually can really execute Flash content in the browser, which doesn't support Flash. So mainly back then it was iOS. Then at the JSConf in Berlin, we sat down with the whole team because we work distributedly. We meet with everybody twice or 3 times a year. And at the JSConf, we met again and we were thinking, okay, how can we take this Gordon runtime to the next level? Because it's a runtime and it doesn't really allow you to, you know, to work with the content. All it does, and it already does a whole bunch of stuff, but really all it does is it executes Flash movies in the browser through JavaScript. So you can't go along and take, you know, a Swift file, convert it to JavaScript, and then change the color, or change the animation, or the text, or change images, and continue working on that. And there was something we thought is really important because, you know, Flash is great for certain things, but we really want to provide a way that you can migrate from Flash to HTML5 and continue what you created. There are so many Flash assets out there in the world, you know, really great stuff, and it would be a pity if it just, you know, gets lost and you can't do anything with it. And so we decided, okay, we have Gordon, let's, you know, take it to the next level and start actually converting Flash to JavaScript. And then we started working on Bikeshed, started thinking about the API, how should it look like. And then in December, we wanted to do a little Christmas action where we created a video every day until the 24th. On the 1st of December, it was really, you know, everybody was hyped up. Let's create a video every day. At the 10th, creating a video every day was getting harder. At the 20th, it was really, you know, a big effort. But here's just one video just to give you a little bit of insight into what we were doing, kind of as a preview for Bikeshed. It's pretty random, to be really honest.
We are crazy JavaScript scientists. We travel to unexplored land to blow your mind with the powers of JavaScript. Dr. Fowler, Dr. Benneman. Today, we discovered Sector 30, the shed. It's located at the exact coordinates of. We think it will be useful.
Doctor's truck. Making dance history in the ballroom of the Hotel Nick.
Just one of the videos. I think we should all run around with these. Thanks. I think we should all run around with these suits and JavaScript stickers. Would be a cool thing, I think. So let's get started. I want to show you 4 things today, all having to do with Bikeshed and the conversion from Flash to HTML5 or from Flash to JavaScript. And the first one, I'm going to do a little bit of live coding. The first one is converting existing Flash assets to JavaScript. So I was just looking, I kind of wanted to start building a little game, and I was looking online for assets. I'm not a designer. I'm not really good in creating, beautiful artwork for games. So I found this SWF file. My laptop is really doing weird. You see that, but it doesn't matter. So I found this SWF file online with a nice little set of trees, hearts, houses, and stuff you can use to create a simple game. So what I have here is very, very simple interface. It's just really for us internally to convert stuff. So what you see on the right here is the actual SWF of the asset I found online. And you actually already see the converted result, but now if I click on convert the file you see here, the same thing, but this now is actual JavaScript. And if I right click on it, you see I can inspect the element. I can look at the source. And so I'm taking this wing, I guess, windmill wing. I don't know if that's the right term. And I'm going to start building a little windmill. Wow. That's sublime, I guess. Yeah, okay. All right, let me just really, really quickly explain. So I'm including Bikeshed, and here, this is where I instantiate a Bikeshed movie. So I basically say bikeshed.run, and then I say which file I want to run. And here's some config stuff for with height if you want to use that. So I copied the source, which I just exported or converted from Flash to JavaScript, into this wings.js file here. And I'm having a windmill.js here, which I'm going to use to create a little windmill. So can you see this well? Is it large enough? All right. So in Bikeshed, it's a little bit similar to Flash. We have a stage, and I can load a sub movie, which is the wings.js. And then whenever it's loaded, I'm getting past the movie in the callback. Add to, and I add it to the stage. And now, if I reload, I just see the wings there. So I go back to my little conversion tool, and I want to convert this Flash house of the windmill. So to the right again, you see the original SWF file. To the left, you see the converted JavaScript code. And I already, before, I saved it in a JavaScript file. So I'm going to just stage, and I call it house.js as well. And I'm going to add that to the stage as well. And now we should see, oh, that's it, this one. We see the house in the wing. Not entirely perfect yet. I'm from the Netherlands, so that's why I'm showing you a windmill, by the way. So change the index. Okay, now I need to adjust a little bit the wing position. So I'm just showing you this, so you also kind of get a feeling for the API, how it looks like, and how it feels working with it. So I need to change X to 8. I tried this before, that's why I know the numbers. Now it looks a little bit better. And now I want to animate the wing over, say, 2 seconds. And have it rotate once. Yeah, it's pretty close, isn't it? That's actually not how windmills operate in the Netherlands, but would be kind of cool. So we need to adjust the origin. And I also figured that out before, so that's 34 and Y is 34. So if I do that now, it's already better. Obviously, wheels rotate more than once, so we'll set the repetition to infinite. Repeat infinity. So now I have one working windmill. So again, this used to be a Flash asset, and I can just take it from the internet, convert it, and reuse it. So let's create a little windmill park. You know, because there's more than one create or return mill. So, well, I can just call the function now, and it's going to do the same thing. So what I want to do now, because I want to create several windmills, I want to group the house and the wing into a group, and then I can operate on that group. So RG is a new group, and now I'm adding the house submovie not to the stage anymore, but to the group. And the same I will do with the wings, and then I'm just returning the group. So, oops, you didn't see that, right? So obviously nothing happens. So I do return windmill add to stage. And now I have my windmill again. So let's create 4 windmills. So just, oh, there's my cursor here. Now I have 4 windmills layered on top of each other. And I'm just going to move them aside a little bit. Nope. X is X times 200 and Y is 100. So now I have a little windmill park. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do stuff to the windmills. So I'm going to animate the windmills to get back to the psychedelic windmills a little bit. So repeat again. What? Ah, true. Good one. There we are. And let's just move the whole thing one a little bit to 400 and Y 400. And oh. So here I have converted Flash assets to JavaScript, and I played around with it. It took me a couple of seconds to do the conversion, and then you have a movie, it's called in Bikeshed, and then you can operate on the movie, do operations on the movie. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. Just to give you a little bit of an overview, what types of features the API has. And if you're familiar with the Flash API, then you probably know that stuff. And I'm just going to really quickly explain. So we have audio, video, shapes, all that stuff, bitmap API, color. There's nice color helpers, so you can say you can make a color lighter or darker, randomize the color here. I like the lighter, darker. It makes things really easy. We have the text API gradients. That's like for the content. Then for the organization of movies, obviously we have the movie itself. Then we have a timeline, similar to the Flash timeline. We can group things. We have sprites, and then for manipulation, we have filters, events, animations, and matrix operations. So the next thing I want to show you is what I did now is I was converting Flash to JavaScript and then reusing that. The next thing I'm going to show is I'm going to convert Flash to JavaScript and then actually changing the converted result in an editor. So I know we all love advertisements, and this is one example of an advertisement. The good thing though, now that we convert Flash to HTML5, we can actually change advertisement, make it much more beautiful. That wasn't possible with Flash ads. So I'm going to show you the next example, and that's an ad for, I think, a coffee machine. So what I'm doing right now is I'm converting the Flash movie to JavaScript again. Here to the right, you see the Flash movie, and here to the left, the exported Bikeshed movie. You don't really see a difference, but that's the goal. So now I'm opening this up in an editor, very simple editor, and I'm just going to change the background color to something better. Oh. Let's see. Hold on. Just go here again. Oh. It doesn't want to change. Ah, there we go. So now I just changed the background color to a different color. And you know, there's no way that you can do this with Flash unless you have the FLA files. And now after the conversion, I can just change it. Let's change the text as well. So I'm just looking for Einkauf. And I wish I would speak Norwegian, but I'm just going to change it to English instead. So I guess sales, I don't know, sales info or something. And you see now it's kind of screwed up. Why? So here, that's kind of looking bad. But if you look, I don't know if you, I hope you can read this, but the original positioning of the glyphs was, you know, absolutely positioned on the x-axis. So that's why the characters are not aligned correctly anymore. So I'm just taking out the glyph x part here. And I'm also going to take the font away because it's a special font. And now I'm changing the size. And now I have, you know, changed the text. And obviously you can choose a better font or more beautiful font than the default font I chose here. And now let's change the coffee machine here. So I'm going to frame 29. Ooh, let's see. I think, hold on. I think it's here. Let's just try and animate this. It's a bit small, 100. Let's see if it does something. Yeah. And because we love rotation, let's rotate it. Oh. Rotation, sorry. Much better, isn't it? I mean, this ad I would love now. I would actually click on it. Maybe not. As a last thing, just to show you, because I exported the Flash movie to JavaScript, you can also operate or do operations on the entire movie. So I'm just going to go to the end, and I'm going to say movie.animate over 2 seconds, and move it to the right. Yeah. And so, you know, again, we took Flash content, converted it to JavaScript, and then changed it. All right, so to give you a little bit more insight onto details of the API, so this is an example of creating shapes based on the path. I'm creating the path here, I'm changing the attribute to green, so I have green heart, positioning, and then I animate it. It doesn't animate here because it's a screenshot, and then I'm repeating the animation. There will be an API for shapes. We have filters, so here I have a square, and then I apply the filter onto the square. It's really simple, you just say filter, and then I want a blur filter with a value of 2, so it adds a blur to the shape. Then we have masks. What I'm doing here is I'm creating the mask consisting of 4 circles. You actually, here you don't see the 4th thing, but it is actually 4. I'm setting a fill gradient, a radial gradient, and then I'm applying the mask here to the gradient here, and that's what you get then as a result. So it's really easy to apply masks. And then animations, you've seen that already. You know, you can basically animate over any property you can change. There's different types of animations we have. So we have, you know, animate over shape properties. You have timeline-based animation. So whenever you want to do something, when something happens in your movie at, say, frame 45, you can, you know, bind your animations to that event with different easing methods and, you know, events in your animation. So you can hook into a certain point in time in your animation, or a frame in your animation, or a percentage of your animation. And we have the timeline. This is how it looks like. Basically, on the stage, you have a frames method, and then you can pass in callbacks at certain frames in your timeline. So at frame 120, I'm changing the fill color of the rectangle to blue, or 240, I'm changing it to green, and 360, I'm changing it to yellow. This is how you hook into the timeline. Then I have one example of morphing. So you can morph between shapes, take one shape and morph it into another one. It's not the most beautiful morphing demo, but you get the point. So these are just a few of the things you can do, and a few examples of the API and how it looks like. So for us, the conversion is really a way to help Flash developers to get started with HTML5 much easier, and not having to drop everything they ever learned and having to drop all the assets and everything they created, but a way to give them the possibility to slowly migrate to JavaScript and HTML5. So what can we do after that migration has happened? We really, like, at least me personally, I'm not so much interested in the actual creation of content in Flash, but I just want to be able to do that in plain JavaScript. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture of how Bikeshed is set up, because the next demo I'm going to show you showcases that. So you could kind of say that the architecture is split up in two parts, the client and the server. The client handles all the rendering, and within the client you can have different rendering engines. Right now, for the Flash conversion, we use SVG, just because it's much easier using SVG in the context of Flash than, say, Canvas. For example, we don't have to re-implement text fields, form support, all these crazy things you would have to re-implement in Canvas, or then use HTML and overlay it and then do click tracking or something. So we have SVG, then you have a Canvas renderer, which we're going to build next, and then potentially also there will be a WebGL renderer or even a combination of the different renderers. And then we have the server, which is not really a server. It can be a server, but it's the part where the actual execution of the movie happens. So where everything gets calculated and collision detection can be calculated, and the movie execution can happen in an iframe. I mean, in any case, it can happen in the main window thread where your movie runs, but you can also decouple it and run it in an iframe. That's really for debugging purposes, nothing else. The main execution context you run Bikeshed movies in is a web worker. So you can do computations really fast and have it separated from the UI thread. And then something really cool, which I'm going to show, is that you can also execute movies on the server running on Node. So you can create an animation, have it run in a Node environment, and then the environment is streaming the rendering data to the client, and you have the animation running on your browser, on your client, and then you can connect different devices to the same Node instance, and, for example, create a multiplayer game. So a little anecdote in between. So we are basically 10 engineers right now, and not really designers. So we're not really talented in creating nice, beautiful assets. And so I was hanging out and checking out Dribble. I think it's great. If you know, Dribble is a site for designers where you can, kind of like GitHub, share your work. And so I found this guy from Turkey called Berk, and I asked him if he had time to build a board-based game or design a board-based game within a week. And then the first thing he said is that he doesn't speak English. And that was already, okay, it's going to be interesting. But we actually decided to go through and just talk through Google Translate. And it kind of works. I mean, I wouldn't, build, I don't know, like a rocket or like a spaceship with communications through Google Translate. But, if you have a clear requirement and a clear goal, I can only encourage you, if you're looking for someone who's really good and he doesn't speak the same language, sometimes it can really work out to just work with someone and use Google Translate. It's kind of strange, but it worked. So I built this game called 9 Men's Morris, and it's a turn-based game. I don't know if you know it, or you didn't see the game yet, so you can't really know it. You play against each other. Hold on. Just going to show you, actually, otherwise that doesn't make sense. So the game actually is meant to be running on an iPad. That's why you see the white space there, and it's not. It's the sizing is done for an iPad. So you set your stones turn-based, and whoever has 3 stones in a row, horizontally or vertically, can take a stone from the opponent, and whoever has 2 stones left lost the game. So this is now actually. Let me just check. 9 Men's Morris. Just need to set it up really quickly. Okay, so I'm just gonna explain. So what I did here is I'm defining the Bikeshed runtime. And at this point, I want to run the movie in a web worker. So I'm just saying, okay, give me the worker runtime for Bikeshed. And then I'm just loading the game here, game.js, and executing it. So if I reload the game in the browser, I can, play against myself. Aha. And do, just play the game. And that's it. It wouldn't really make sense to play the game. I mean, anyways, alone, but you would have to pass the iPad back and forth or whatever. So what I really want to be able to do is I want to, run the game multiplayer on a node server and just stream the rendering to the client, and then I can play, on my iPad, and someone else can play on his own iPad, and then you can play even if you're not in the same location. So all I have to do now is I'm going back to the place where I initialized the movie, and I'm replacing the worker environment with the socket IO environment. And now I need to tell Bikeshed where the node server is running, and that's what I'm doing here. So I included the socket IO runtime, and now I have a setup step here in between, which you can basically use for any type of runtime. And here I'm just saying, hey, my node server is running here, 10.0.2.10 on port 8080, and that's it. So I'm going to go now to start my, wait. Well, I just started the node server and it already started streaming stuff to the client, but I just want to make sure that it works. Hold on. No. So I need who's an expert in playing Nine Man's Morris? Who wants to win something? You want to win something? All right, come here. Yeah. So I have the same game running here now on the iPad. It's a risky maneuver. I hope it all works. Well, then I'll win the.
I can't win, man.
Okay, so wait, don't do anything for now.
Okay.
I'm gonna reload here. Okay, let's just see if it works. Yeah, it works. So you're blue and I'm red, and you just place the stones on the field.
Okay.
And you actually see what he's doing on the screen, because now I connected both clients to the node server running the Bikeshed movie. So that was his move. I'm going to move. You have to try to get 3 stones in a row. If you have any tips, what move to make. Maybe you can hold it up a little bit so they can see. Can you see the iPad?
I wanted to put that in the corner. So is that my point? Or I do it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll try to be faster. We'll try to be faster.
Okay. So I win.
Oh no, horizontally or vertically only.
The rules. Come on.
I didn't say that before, did I?
All right. Okay.
That's a good one. I hope you're not getting bored.
No. Okay, this one I win.
Oh yeah, now you can take it down. Just
I take it.
Yep.
Oh,
And
I can pick in the rush?
yeah. Okay, and now you place the last stone.
But I don't have any more.
Oh, is it true?
Well, I don't know.
You were red or who's who? Are you red or blue?
I am blue.
Oh, okay, wait.
So I can.
I didn't remember myself. Okay, so now you can move stones like
Okay.
from one to the next position. No, only like to an adjacent position. Only like to an edge. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay, do it.
I practiced so many times.
I want to do it. Give me the cause alert. All right, so you want to beat me? Oh, so you find it funny? I'm sure you find it funny.
All right.
Yeah, but, all right,
Well,
so-
you get the prize anyways.
Oh, I guess that's right. Great. Oh, your iPad. No, come on.
You have one already? A T-shirt?
No, the iPad. No, I wanted yours. Okay.
Oh, the prize wasn't the iPad. All right. So again, basically what we're doing here is we created a game in plain JavaScript, and we could run the game in a web worker. So not really multiplayer or like multiplayer on the same instance of your browser. And then really literally, all I had to do is change the environment from the web worker to socket.io, and then it's streaming rendering data to the client. And right now we're streaming plain JSON. It's not like an optimized binary protocol or something, but that's something to look into at a later point. All right, so that was the third thing I wanted to show you, and then the last thing I wanted to show you is tools. And for that, I have a little bit of an analogy. I don't know if it really makes sense, but you can tell me afterwards. So I kind of see, like in music, you have two types of musicians. You have composers and improvisers, I would say. And maybe there's other ones, but I think that's, main categorization of people who make music. And I kind of see it similar to, developers or hackers. Like a JavaScript developer at this point, I see much more being someone like that, who sits at home, codes stuff, and then whenever it's ready, you send it out and deploy it. So you compose your song or you write your code, and then you give it to an orchestra or you give it to a browser. And the difference is we never know, who our orchestra is. So it could be IE, could be Opera, it could be Chrome or whatever. Now, if you look at improvisers, this guy is called Wes Montgomery, a really great guitarist. They literally make music in real time on the fly. They practice all the time to being able to, in the moment create something and make that happen in the moment. So here at a concert in the Village Vanguard, you basically play something and you don't know what's going to happen. And I think, we have really good tools and they can be even better to compose, like IDEs and stuff. But I think it would be nice if we start looking into, tooling, especially for the more creative type of content, which allow us much easier to transform the ideas we have in our mind, into reality in a much more direct way, in a much more feedback-driven way, and so that we don't, write something, compile it, and then test it, but get that feedback in real time, so we can, start working much more creatively. And I think if we push our tools a little bit more on the creative side, then together with tools like IDEs, it's going to get much more powerful and much easier to create visual-driven content. So here, next to Bikeshed, we're starting to work on tools, and it's very, very, in a very, very early stage. But you've seen that before when I was showing the advertisement. We have a little, very basic editor right now, where the main thing is that you see what you do always in real time on the left, and on the right you do your coding. So on the right side you have the source, and on the left side you have a preview. So you don't have to save, reload, switch windows, and stuff like that, which takes a lot of time and which really is something you don't want to do. That's one feature. The other feature, which is kind of nice, and I'm just going to show you that in the real example, is are the embedded docs, which show you related information to your source code wherever your cursor is at this point. And also this is not rocket science at all right now, but a lot of tools which we have don't really provide that in a really direct way. So here I'm having my cursor on the movie object, and then I'm just seeing, okay, these are the APIs the movie object has placed or paused. I can go to frames, or I can go to points in time, and then there's a whole bunch of more examples. So if I look, for example, at the add child, you see examples for add child, and also it's a great way to finding gaps into gaps in your documentation, because I think if I go to preload helper, nothing will come. So you see, I'm not, my documentation isn't completely there yet. And then the next thing is, of course, auto-completion. And auto-completion is something so basic for most of us, but it's not, you don't have it in all IDEs for JavaScript developers. And not a lot of or not every JavaScript developer also uses it. I think it's really, really something very useful for your tool. And then the next thing is easy value changing. I'm just going to show you an example. Let me go back to the editor. So just looking for a fill color. So say I have green here. I can just step through, the different colors. I don't know if so I'm changing the value here. Just through simple key combinations. And again, this is really the very, very first step. The next step would be that I can just select an object here, and it gets highlighted here in my source code, and that I can create animations on my iPad. I can just draw an animation. So this is really the first step of the toolings we're working on for Bikeshed. Let me go back to the slides. Oop. All right, one little just piece of information which I learned when I was trying to build the game for the iPad. With a retina display, you have a high resolution, and you can't just put JPEGs. Like I was just trying to set one large JPEG as a background for the game, and then I realized it was pixelated. So if you want to prevent pixelated JPEGs, just make sure that you export them as progressive JPEGs, and then on the iPad with a retina display, they work as well. Just a little piece of information which I found out. So Bikeshed, you can find a preview on bike.sh/preview. It will be open source under the MIT license, so you can just play around with it and do whatever you want, similar to what you were able to do in the Flash IDE. And if you're interested in it, then you can follow it on Bikeshed.js. We're not done yet, so the release will be hopefully happening in the next 2 to 4 weeks. But we really hope that with this tool we can bring the more creative type of JavaScript coding into the community and make it much more easier to create more visual-driven content. And that's everything. Thanks. Do you have questions? I could laser beam you, but I'm not gonna.
I'm assuming you do quite a bit of work in the client as well, even though the calculations are done on the server side. How much work are we talking with regards to both speed and size for client side, say mobile browsers, for instance? Is it something that could be a problem?
So right now we're mainly targeting mobile, and for that, right now our main runtime is the web worker environment. The node thing is kind of something we just found out by the fact that we separated the rendering from the execution. We just were like, hey, why not try it on Node? From a performance perspective, I mean, it really depends on the use case. Like a farm wheel game today, even though theoretically it should be possible, is not going to happen. The first thing which works for 100% is simple animation, ads, simple games, and then when time progresses and performance of devices and runtimes gets better, we'll try to optimize for that, and then you'll also be able to execute more involved content. But it's also something, again, like for us, really the long-term thing is the API itself. The conversion from Flash to that is really just one means for people to make sure that they can migrate their stuff to HTML5. So if we see that a lot of people have Flash content and are converting that to JavaScript HTML5, then we will optimize more in the conversion part.
Because I just noticed that your ad example, for instance, was over 2,000 lines in the converted version. So of course, and then you get the bike shedding code on top of that.
Yeah.
So of course, it is a cost to some extent.
Yeah, and one thing I have to mention right now, we haven't really spent much time in optimizing the conversion result. But I think once we start working on that, generally it should be pretty much similar to the size of SWF files. It will be bigger sometimes, but sometimes it also will be smaller. Bikeshed.js itself, I think right now it's I have to look again. I think it was 60K. Yeah, there was the current thing, but then also before that we once built a framework called embed.js, which was inspired by Dojo. And what we did there is we took basically almost on a method level, we took Dojo methods or functions and modularized almost everything. So you could really say, okay, for this device, I only want to have these files, and for that device, I want to have other files. So that's an option also for Bikeshed that you say if you only use animations or only use filters or 4 features of the whole API, that you actually only include that part of the code and therefore optimize much more for mobile. Any more?
Are you creating just one SVG or many for each of the assets in the flash file?
Sorry, again?
So when you're converting a flash file,
Yep.
are you just generating one SVG or several for each of the assets? So for instance, the coffee machine, is that just one SVG or many?
So the coffee machine actually is a PNG. So we extract the assets, and then embed them in the movie. It depends on the flash file.
Okay, but it's just one
Yeah.
image.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Who actually is a flash coder here?
Nobody's going to admit that. Oh, that's one.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I just hope that I wasn't talking about something which is completely irrelevant, but for you guys. But in any case, I really can say that the tools, the Flash IDE is something I can only recommend to look at because it's, as Michael was saying earlier, it's right now it's the best tool for creating visual content, and we will get there. We will build tools for HTML5 as well, but that's gonna it's gonna take some time, and so the Flash IDE isn't actually a bad thing. It's just that it's a proprietary thing, which isn't nice.